Greetings, I'm Walt Gray of the Continental Army and ABC 10's Morning Blend to explain the American Revolution in under 3 minutes. God willing. Start the clock. Here we go. Before the American Revolution, there were 13 British colonies settled between 1607 and 1732. Like British colonies around the world, they were governed and taxed by Parliament in London. The Revolution grew out of the end of the 7 Years' War, also called the French-Indian War, when the British fought the French over control of North America, ending with British booting the French out of most of the continent. After that explosive war, Parliament thought the colonies should pay for their own defense and thus started issuing various taxes on the colonies like the Sugar Act, the Stamp Act, and later the Townshend Act. This upset the colonies, so they boycotted English goods and began smuggling instead. In a famous act of rebellion, some rebels boarded a British ship and threw all of its cargo overboard, this becoming known as the Boston Tea Party. Now, tensions were already high due to a violent confrontation between British troops in Boston that ended with the British firing into a crowd, killing 5 people. In 1775, Boston was declared in open rebellion and Parliament ordered troops to begin to disarm the Bostonians, which resulted in the first battle of the Revolutionary War, Lexington and Concord, known as the shot heard round the world. Still at this point, the colonies tried to sue for peace and reconciliation with the motherland. It wasn't until a year later, in 1776, as you know, when the Declaration of Independence was written and signed. Now, the odds were not in the colonists' favor, as the British were the most powerful nation on the planet, and a well-armed and well-trained army of British regulars and German mercenaries, while the colonists were usually unorganized and undisciplined and barely armed. Not to mention, they had virtually no navy at all. The Americans did have brilliant military leaders such as George Washington and Nathaniel Greene of Rhode Island, as well as a very strong home field advantage. There were many times during the 8-Year War where we were on the verge of complete defeat, but due to Washington's resourcefulness plus some luck, we continued to fight on. Though it wasn't until the French agreed to help near the end of the war when victory became inevitable, because that's what the French do, they jump in late, with the siege of British troops at Yorktown. The states had earned their independence, and for the next 4 years, they continued to operate under the Articles of Confederation until they realized they needed a stronger central government. The Constitutional Convention took place in Philadelphia, where through lots of argument and hard-fought compromise, they arrived at a final constitution 11 years after the Declaration of Independence. The U.S. would go over to fight another war for independence with Britain in 1812, but hey, that's a much different video for a different time. Happy Independence Day from ABC 10.